my name is Abishek. I am a business development lead at a company called Second Order Effects. We're a engineering consulting firm. I joined here as of earlier in March this year. My background is in aerospace engineering. I graduated from Purdue back in 2017, and then again with my master's in 2019. Yeah, excited to have this conversation. Kind of my journey into entrepreneurship really started with a student organization called Purdue Orbital. It's something that's me and a couple friends started while we were at Purdue. And originally the plan or the goal was to launch rockets from high altitude balloons. That was sort of like the engineering case. And we started it because we thought, there are a lot of really great organizations at Purdue that help you build or help get hands-on experience building something, but we wanted to actually start from kind of like ground up. So like find a problem and then find a way to tackle that problem. And so that's why we started the organization. And as we started to kind of mature, as we brought more members in, and as we started to like look at the market around, kind of our use case of launching small satellites into orbit, we started to realize that, hey, this actually could be something that we could commercialize. And at the time, we didn't really know what that meant, what to do. We didn't even really know what customer discovery was, but we did know about kind of the entrepreneurship groups here at Purdue, especially those in kind of the Foundry. And so we reached out, and I think our journey into kind of like entrepreneurship, or even the idea of starting a business, really came out of our initial conversations with the Foundry and going through programs like Firestarter and like iCore, all those things. We learned what a business model canvas was. We learned like what it means to even be a business, how you generate revenue, like what a customer is, how do you do customer discovery, all that kind of stuff. And so it really came out of kind of that extracurricular at Purdue Orbital, and then wanting to take that and spin it off into like an actual company. Yeah, so I think that the engineering curriculum as a whole has been like really helpful in building up just my skill set as an engineer. But I feel like most of the extracurriculars that I did were what were like especially valuable, because it gave me an opportunity to apply kind of the engineering knowledge that I had gotten from classes and at least try and use it in a way to build something. So Purdue Orbital was definitely like a very definitive experience in that process. I remember back in my sophomore year, I worked on a design competition with a couple of other friends. This was another extracurricular. We were competing in like an AIAA competition. And those types of experience were really formative. They helped me kind of explore some of the things that I liked to do in engineering, some of the larger systems that exist within the aerospace industry. I got to like get my hands a little bit dirty in the design process, which was really cool. And then when it comes to entrepreneurship specifically, being involved with the Foundry was probably the biggest one, because they were the ones that exposed me to opportunities like Firestarter and iCore. Being able to like take advantage of the Burton business model competition, all that kind of stuff came out of the relationships that I formed with my friends at the Foundry and with the people within the entrepreneurship community at Purdue. And so classes were definitely super helpful, but kind of all of the other extracurricular opportunities that I was exposed to, whether it was through the Foundry or through the people that I knew and the competitions and design things that I did after school, like those were probably the most formative for me. Yeah, it's a great question. So my path has kind of changed compared to, I think, how when I was coming out of school, especially when I was coming out of my undergrad, I had this idea of wanting to go into program management and work on helping lead develop a very complex engineering system, especially in the aerospace industry, since that was my background. And that was always kind of the goal. So like the classes I took, even like the types of extracurricular activities that I was trying to get involved in, they were all related to how do I build a complex engineering system? How do I like think through that problem? How do I work through it? There was actually over the course of 2 years. So when we spun out, so after I graduated from undergrad, we took the idea of wanting to launch small satellites into orbit using this high altitude balloon platform thing. We took that idea and we decided to spin it out into its own company. And in the span of 2.5 years, which was 2.5 years, which was how long we were working on the startup, I came to realize that building a business is also a very difficult and complex system to work through. And it's a little bit different than building an engineering system. Like both have some similarities, but there are obviously some like very different hurdles that you face. And I actually found that I really enjoy the process of building a business a little bit more than I do building an engineering system. And that's why I have shifted sort of my career focus from being a little bit more of like a hands-on design or like analysis type engineer to being on the business development side. Now, I don't think I can ever really like leave my engineering roots behind. That I did not want to do that. And so Second Order Effects, which is an engineering consulting firm, for me to do my job well, I actually, my engineering background has been incredibly helpful because I use it to really understand, whatever systems a customer comes and talks to us about. So I'm putting together proposals and trying to win business and projects for the company. And to do that, I need to have an understanding of what the customer systems, what they are, what they do, what constraints there are. And so my engineering background has really helped me transition into this type of role very well. And I really like it. I think it's, I found sort of a little niche that I enjoy, which is being able to take the engineering knowledge that I have and try to apply it in a way where I'm growing a business. And that is like, honestly, what I found to be really, really enjoyable when I was working on the startup. And so that being said, had I not done the startup at all, I don't think I would have actually recognized that this was kind of a path that I could pursue. So it sort of opened my eyes to, what does it actually take to build a business? What does it mean to grow out staff? All of the challenges associated with that. And I guess I enjoyed tackling those problems. And that's kind of what led me to being in a business development capacity rather than a little bit more of a traditional engineering capacity. The reason that I liked the extracurriculars so much at Purdue, or even like being involved with Foundry, is I think it just like exposed me to more. And that was kind of the big thing, is just like being exposed to more means you have, I think, more opportunities to pick from and hopefully more doors to choose. And so having as many options on the table is kind of nice, right? Like it's a good position to be in. And so I've tried to maximize that in my career. And now I think, it took like 3 years. And I think I finally found a door that I like really, really like. So, which is kind of the openness of the whole landscape. So I think that starting a business or, trying to delve into sort of these entrepreneurship problems, they're very open and they can be really hard to like wrap your head around and tackle. And those, it's really scary, right? So you don't necessarily, it's hard to characterize the problem. And even if you try to find a solution, it's hard to maybe project where that solution is going to take your business. You don't quite know. And I think what that leads to oftentimes, and I've heard this from a lot of like startup founders, is like you choose you kind of choose a strategy, and oftentimes you're wrong, and you just try to gather information, and whatever information you gather, you try to pivot, change your strategy, and try to keep adapting and changing at a really, really rapid pace. And I think that flexibility is really, really important for any sort of for anyone, especially who's trying to build a business. You want to constantly be learning more, constantly be getting additional information, and trying to change your strategy based on whatever you're taking in. And it's not to say that you take every piece of information and you use it to change your course. It's like you have to get really good at one, seeking out and getting as much information as possible, and then filtering it through your own lens as well as the lens by which you're being told. You know, like some people have opinions and some people have like actual stories based on their experiences, and some carry much more weight than others, I think. And so you got to take that, you filter it, and then you try and actually implement it in some way, shape, or form. And that process is very, very quick. But that is the piece that I actually enjoyed probably the most, because it, I think, promotes really quick growth and really quick learning. And that was honestly a big reason why I wanted to even get involved with entrepreneurship, was just rapid growth and like learn as much as possible. And when you start a business, if you're trying to start a business and you're trying to do it, you know, especially early on when you don't have a lot of money, you try to do things like really, really scrappy, and it's very uncomfortable, but you grow a lot through that discomfort. Networking and like the people that you know is super duper. I actually think it's really, really important. That's not to say that I don't necessarily like the like who you know is better than what you know. I don't like that saying quite so much, but who you know is definitely important. And I think the sooner as a student, especially in this day and age, that you start to acquire networking skills, like being able to sell yourself, like your capabilities, whether or not you're starting a company or not, that is besides the point. But being able to talk about yourself in kind of a constructive way when you're networking is incredibly valuable. Being able to talk about the skills that you have, all of that stuff will help. It'll help lead to new opportunities. And networks are really powerful. They're really hard to start initially, right? Like you don't necessarily know a lot of people to begin with, but as you start networking, you start growing your network. And as you start growing your network, it becomes easier and easier to meet new people and get exposed to new ideas. And really it comes down to like kind of like a game of numbers, right? The more people you know, ideally, the more opportunities you have to that you're exposed to, or the more information that you're exposed to. And again, you play the game of like, take that information, take those opportunities, filter it through your own lens. But in general, you have a lot of access to information, and that is incredibly valuable. So the value of networking, I think, should not be lost on any student. And I think especially, you know, whether you're a freshman, you're a sophomore, you should use every opportunity you can to continue growing and building your network. You're a student, so use that as an opportunity, right? Like a lot of people actually like to talk with students because they like to, you know, pay it forward. Like a lot of these people were students at one point in time. They talked to mentors, they talked to industry leaders, and now they're paying it forward. So every opportunity you get, you should take advantage, try to network, try to build your connections out, and that'll really help moving forward. And the flip side is like the more capabilities that you have, the better opportunity you'll have, or the better, I think, you put yourself in a good position when you do talk to people. It's kind of like you want both sides as much as possible. You build your skill set as much as possible so you can frame yourself in a really good light when you talk to people. And then you network really hard so that you get to talk to more people. And so with a combination of those two things, you'll actually get exposed to a lot of opportunity. And, you know, a lot of people are interested in getting jobs, and that, like, networking is a wonderful way to get exposed to jobs and opportunities and just bypass a lot of the automated, like, I got to submit my resume, blah, 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 like all that stuff. You can bypass a lot of that if you can network really well. So I would, whether or not you're trying to start a business or you're trying to, you know, take an idea and like mature it, networking is super huge. The people that you surround yourself with are really important. So it's not just like friends, but the professionals that you surround yourself with will really, I think, help make your career. And I think that you learn as much from, you know, just like reading or, you know, in school, you learn as much talking to people as well. And so you always want to have the opportunity, I think, to talk to as many people as possible and get as much data.